Welcome everyone. We are thrilled to have you guys join us today on our special webinar, Marching Art Business Forward as we celebrate International Women's Day. So as we delve deep into the world of art business, we know that how women are shaping the industry, breaking barriers, and accelerating action to move forward. We know that it's not a walk in the park. Women juggling like the art business and navigating between everything, sustaining the career, securing funding, and knowing the right platform to put out our works and all that. So for this today, we're having this webinar and we have a lineup of amazing guests. I'll just delve right into it by introducing our guests. So first, we have a powerhouse in the legal and business side of the art world. She's an art broker, a curator, and a cultural strategist who helps artists and galleries protect their work and thrive. That's Seun Ali. Can you turn on your camera and say hello to us?
Hello, everyone.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Moving on, we also have an art administrator who knows exactly what it takes to run a successful art space, build strong artist business relationships. And we have Miss Hannah Remi Okoja. Can say hello to us, Hannah.
Hello.
Hi, you're
Hi, good
welcome.
to be here.
It's great to have you also. Also, we have a creative consultant, a curator, and an art advisor with a deep understanding of the market trends and how collectors engage with artists. We have Aziza Oyelola. I don't know if she's here.
Yeah, hi.
Hello, welcome, Aziza. It's good to have you.
Thank
Uh,
you.
thank you. Welcome, ladies. It's an honor to have you all here. So let's get right into it. Okay, so let's start with something very relatable. The art industry is inspiring, but it's also very demanding. There's passion, but there's also burnout. Challenges, endless problem solving. So let me just throw it all to you, right? Um, what's one thing that working in the art business or the art industry that keeps you up at night, but also excites you in the morning? So let's start with Aziza.
Something that excites me, what keeps me up at night. I'm not sure. um, I think just like the prospect of like there's just so much that can be done. I think the African art industry is still very much so like in its infancy. So there's so many opportunities for not only exhibitions but galleries, for collaborations, for museums. And it's really exciting to think about the fact that there's so many young artists, there's so many established artists who I feel like we still haven't seen all their work, what they can do. And yeah, that's something that keeps me up at night, I guess.
All right, that's good to hear. So Hannah, would like to hear your thoughts on that.
Something that excites me about the art sphere is art fairs and traveling. It excites me, but it also keeps me up at night. For instance, international art fairs, when you're talking to so many people and you're talking to thousands of people and people are like questioning you, you have to be always have the right thing to say. That keeps me up at night. But it's also exciting to travel, be able to go to different countries for art fairs.
Okay, that's interesting. Sheung, can you give us your thoughts on this also?
Yes, hi everyone. Afternoon. Happy to be here. I think for me, it's evolved. I think at the beginning I was a bit more. Um, I was an amateur, obviously, so there were expectations that weren't maybe that weren't very clear about maybe things I needed to do. I think for me now it's just a responsibility, right? It's exciting to know that okay, maybe you're in charge of a huge project. You get to work with a lot of people, get to meet many people, get to meet artists, your fellow colleagues. But at the same time, I find that in doing all of this is exciting, but at the same time, I can't sleep. I'm thinking about reaching out to people. I'm, a bit apprehensive sometimes about the scale of things that we have to execute. But like I said, it has evolved, but that's where I'm at the moment.
Thank you. Very insightful, everyone. Okay, so still on Shemu, I would like us to speak about the legal realities in the art industry. So we know many artists and galleries struggle with contracts and intellectual property rights. What are the most common legal plaintiffs in the art business, and how can women in the industry protect their work? You're muted.
Sorry, you were saying what are the most common? I didn't get that.
The most common legal plaintiffs in the art business, and how can women in the industry protect their work?
Did you say plaintiff? I didn't get
Yes,
that.
yes, yes, exactly. Like, what are the legal struggles in art businesses that
Oh,
you,
struggles.
yeah, the contracts and intellectual property rights that you understand? Like, how do you think women in this the art industry can protect their work?
Well, I think there are many. But maybe to start off with, we're looking at things like drafting contracts and just being very clear as to terms of engagement and reasons why you're being um, engaged to do a certain job or a certain project. So I think first things first is um, no matter how casual the work may be, sometimes you have to put pen to paper, understand what you're getting into, understand again what your responsibilities are, what is expected of you. And if we start talking about ownership and maybe if you're an artist and we start looking into your work being used, copyright, licensing, um, consignment agreement, all these many things that have to be sort of like labeled. I know sometimes we run away from perhaps labeling stuff and what happens with those things, it comes back to really hurt you in the end because you start to figure out and say, maybe if I had been a bit clearer about this, maybe if I had known that this wasn't my job, or maybe if I had known that I could outsource these things. But I think first things first is just to enter those contracts, negotiate. It doesn't really matter how long it takes to negotiate things. Don't be in a rush. Protect your intellectual property, whatever that may be. Um, but also, I think this is key as I'm starting to develop my practice and really build my work. I'm starting to see as well that you don't have to do everything yourself. Um, you might want to cut costs. You might want to, you don't want to expand the team or you don't think you're ready for certain things. But I think engaging other people, working with other people that have the skills that you sometimes don't have. So in this case, if we're talking legal, I went to law school, right? And I practiced for a while before coming into this space. So if I'm looking at a contract, I'm putting on my legal hat, right? Once a lawyer, you're always a lawyer. But if you're not a lawyer and you feel like, oh, I can just take an agreement from the internet and give it to the person I'm speaking with, or your galleries, for example, just go online, take any contract you see, you've entered into terms. There are going to be some things that you don't necessarily um, include. And again, I'll speak for myself. If I look through a contract, I know, what maybe the artist should be asking for, or what the gallery should be asking the artist for example. If you don't have those skills, outsource it. If it's something that has to do maybe like financial literacy as well, if you don't have the skills, outsource it. If you're concerned about money, which a lot of people are sometimes, I think it's best to try and work with your peers. So instead of going to like maybe the top law firm in Lagos. You might have one or two friends that knows another lawyer. Engage them, no matter how small the fee might be. Engage them, pay the fee, and move on and learn from there.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So we've been talking about the legal part of the art business. So let's come to like the operational part. So running an art business, it requires both creativity and structure, just like we've already mentioned in the legal part. What's your biggest operational challenges as an art administrator, and how can they be overcome? This question is for Hannah.
Well, first of all, I would have to like tell you what the operational challenges, what are the operational challenges are. So I would say that getting artists to agree to exhibit. So once you've engaged an artist, you have to draw up a contract with them. You have to explain how you're going to do the logistics, who's going to pay for the transportation of the works, especially with transporting internationally. Are you going to go with an art broker or an art handler, or are you going to just go with an ordinary courier like DHL or and then you have to so then there's some another one is keeping the client happy. What if the client another operational cost issue is that clients buy an artwork then they pay later. So you have to make sure that you are on top of your budget so that you always have funds. For instance, if an artwork has been sold and and a client hasn't paid yet, and then you have to offset costs. And then when you're doing logistics, you have to think about the dimensions. You have to have spreadsheets for everything. So once you're sending an artwork or even locally and you're getting an artwork from A to B, you have to have a spreadsheet and that and have pictures of all of the works to make sure that you know where what exactly you're sending. When it arrives, you take pictures of all of the works so that you know if there's any damage. Things like operational challenges can come up in any way, but it's all about staying on top of things and making sure that you try to be organized. To do lists help. So when you're trying to do a project that has many moving parts, make sure you write down everything. Even if you're in a meeting and you're having a call, you write down what's happening so you don't miss anything. Then also um, funding of logistics. Funding is a big issue in operational costs. For instance, if you're everything costs money, like if you're going to print catalogs, if you're going to have a catalog digitally or a QR code, you have to consider, even if you're designing a catalog and you want to use Adobe or you want to use Canva, you have to pay. So it's sorry about that, my phone just rang. So like I said, you have to stay on top of things and be organized, and that the number one thing is organizational skills when you're doing operational challenges. So I think that's it.
Thank you. Okay, so we've heard Hannah speak about the administrative part and putting structure, and majorly she mentioned something about funding. Okay, so I'd like for Seun to speak on this. So more collectors and investors are seeing art as a serious financial asset, right? What should artists and galleries do to position themselves to profitable investments? We just spoke about funding. So how they position themselves to profitable investments? Yeah.
There are various ways, and I think now it's exciting that we're even seriously talking about art as a financial asset, right? I mean, over the years, a lot of people just thought, let's just do this thing and support artists, and not people didn't really used to talk about, or what are the financial gains, or this word that's always thrown about. Who should I invest in, right? I'm starting to hear that a lot more, and as difficult as it is sometimes predict the market. There are some people that are, gradually increasing in, the works are increasing in value. They're becoming more popular. People want to buy their work. People want to just associate with them. Anything they put their hands on, they just want to buy, right? But in doing that as well, I think there are also some things that the artists and even the galleries and other people that sort of work within the ecosystem can do to to just help matters move along a lot more swiftly. So we need to start looking a little bit more closely at things like provenance and market value, right? Um, it is still difficult, but like I said, there are things that can help you. So maybe things like exhibitions, for example, just maintaining like proper records of that, proper records of sales, proper records of ownership history. So some of the things that we are doing in-house, right? If we had a piece of art, whether it's most likely going to be sold the market secondary sale or this what we want to have an exhibition history if there is. We also want about ownership history. So did you buy that from the artist? Did you buy from somebody else? Did you buy from a gallery? All these things matter because at the end of the day, if this asset and ownership is being passed, is provenance is always like the big thing, right? So if it goes into auction and there's some dispute about ownership of the work, for example, or let me say creation of the work. So where did you get it from? If you had exhibition history, if you had ownership history, it's very easy to track these things, right? And maybe dispute any sort of like claim that the artist might start having. I'm sharing this because recently there was a work that went into auction and the artist said to the auction house that they should take it down because this work he didn't create the work, right? And this was a work that was bought maybe about 40 years ago. And has only just come into the space. That was 40 years ago. What are we doing now? Documenting, sort of reporting art as an asset class is we having to leverage with institutions. So what do I mean by that? There's some artists now who are really considering ownership of their works by a museum or a well-established cultural organization, and they'll say to you that, sure, I'm more interested in a museum collecting of this as opposed to a private collector who would maybe just collect and have it in the basement somewhere. Nobody's seen it. Nobody knows that they exist in this person's collection, whether or not the person is well known. That's another strategy to just sort of like push your work a little bit more. Another one is I think pricing. This is something that we've always spoken about. I think we still having issues with this. And I think as you can testify, we've had many conversations about pricing and how artists sometimes are not being as strategic. I mean, today you're selling at, I don't know, this is just an example, right? $5,000. And next week you're coming and saying that, a similar piece or piece that was created around the same time is now $25,000, or somebody else has bought it and they're expecting to get that sort of amount. I mean, the work has already been priced in a way that, or the work should be priced in a way that also reflects where the artist is, what stage they are, what sort of work are they put into their career. But at the same time, you also don't want to destroy this is where you have to work with external, sort of give you a headway of, okay, I've been selling my work at $2,000 instead of maybe 5K or a little bit higher. What do you think is an appropriate price now? And there's some things that as professionals we will do. So we're constantly liaising with each other. Best believe that galleries, we are constantly seeking people's advice because a client has maybe commissioned you to catalog their collection, for example. You do not want to be putting a silly price on something just because maybe you don't like the artist or you're not even keen on the work that they do. But that's where research comes in, and again, just sort of liaising and partnering with your colleagues. I think this also, again, creating a strong brand identity. So again, the cultural significance of your work, maybe, and even again, maybe also partnering with like some professionals. So if the person is a professional in marketing or branding, these are things that conversations you should be having about your work, and conversations as well that galleries should be having with the artists. And this one, I'm not sure how people take it. I always advise artists to have limited edition works, simply because you don't want a situation where you're painting at very odd hours of the night or the day. You're not having to really focus. You're not really having time to build your career. You could actually have limited edition prints just so that your original works are a little bit more, the value is a little bit higher than the limited edition works. And also to just save you time, right? You need to go back, you need to do research, you need to really put in work into what you want to do. If you're constantly doing originals all the time, I don't see how you're going to be able to be as productive as I think you can be. So yeah, I think that's my last point, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Um, okay. That's been insightful so far. Okay, so Shemo has spoken about how to position ourselves for profitable investors and all that. So I'm coming to you, Aziza. Um, for us to attract high value collectors, how do you think galleries and artists should curate their work, their piece, in ways that would attract high value collectors? We've spoken about high value investors, profitable investors, so we are speaking to high value collectors. How do we do this?
I think first of all, you have to, as an artist, you have to work with a gallery that aligns with your work. I don't think any artist can work with any gallery. I think the first thing, or an advisor or a curator, I think whoever an artist is working with has to, one, deeply understand their work, and or be able to relate to it, and also be able to share the meaning behind the artwork, the creation process, everything to do with the art with the collector. Because high value collectors are most of the time highly intelligent. They also have, if they're a high value collector, it means they've most likely collected a lot of artwork, so they will have a lot of questions. And if you're working with a gallerist or a curator or an advisor who can't answer those questions, then that's already a zero, a minus, and they most likely will not buy your work. And I think that's one of the most important things. The second most important thing I would say is the quality of the work as well as the quality of the display. So that's talking about the canvas that you use, how you prime the canvas, the quality of your paint or whatever materials you're using. Um, I think even the methods you use in which you're creating, if you're an artist, I don't think there's any successful artist who just creates work without thinking deeply on their process, on how exactly they're going to create an artwork. So the quality of their work and then the display as well. You can create an amazing work and then you put it in a terrible frame or it's stretched terribly. And that is also going to chase any high value collector away. In fact, it may just chase a regular collector away. So a high value collector is going to be even more, have even more scrutiny and say, what's this stretcher? What's this frame? Why did you put it up like that? For instance, if it's a 3D work, they might say, okay, why is this not hanging from the ceiling? Why did you decide to put a frame on this when it's textured? So it's also really having the answers behind everything that you're doing, whether it's the display, the way you install it, the way it was stretched, the shape of the artwork. Why is it circular? Why is it square? Why is it rectangular? And then another way to attract high value collectors, I would say, is exclusivity. Like Seun just said, not all artwork has to be original. Some collectors may want a particular artwork. Like for instance, Benenwo's Tutu, who I think a lot of people are familiar with. Obviously, there's only one of that artwork created, but a lot of Nigerian collectors, high value collectors, even in Lagos, when you visit their homes, you see that they have prints of it because a limited edition print was done, I think, by the British Museum during an exhibition. So, and that was considered it's almost like the Nigerian Mona Lisa, right? So everybody would love to have that in their house, but they can't. But a high value collector would admire and appreciate a high quality print. So it's also about knowing what exactly the collectors want. What don't they have in their collection? What would they appreciate? And that all goes back to like curating your audience. I think there are different high value collector audiences. There are different ages of collectors. There are different backgrounds of collectors. Female collectors might want something different from male collectors. Older collectors might want something different from younger collectors. So I think you also have to strategically show each group of collectors something that they will appreciate and they will want. You can't just group everybody together and say, okay, because you're all high value and you've all been collecting for a long time, or you're all spending a certain amount of money, I'm going to show you this work. You have to be really strategic about everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aziza. That has been very insightful. Okay, so I know that Shim has spoken about positioning ourselves to attract profitable investors. Aziza has spoken about getting high value collectors. So, Hannah, I know that this year's International Women's Day theme is Accelerate Action. What steps can female artists, gallery owners, people in the art business, um, what kind of steps do they have to take to make a more sustainable and profitable art business?
And in terms of sustainability and profitability, you have to, most businesses are trying to make ends meet. Art is not as black and white as, for instance, law or other fields of work. So you have to be very innovative. You have to think of new ways to get people to engage with your work. So I would say, as an art gallery, I would say you would have to, first of all, you can delve into marketing and PR, social media, different ways, but you can't just keep inviting the same people. You have to always be creative about getting people to come to your exhibitions. Then another way is if you wanted to go into another country, let's say you were um, a gallery in Nigeria or Lagos and you wanted to diversify your market or get new collectors, or I would say go into art fairs. So I've been consulting recently for different galleries to be able to take their work internationally. And what a way to get into an art fair is literally just to apply. You just show all the art exhibitions that you've been doing, and then you because the thing is that when you go to an art fair, you're diversifying your market. You're trying to get um more different types of collectors. That's what the selling point of an art fair is that they give you collectors. Then profits, but it's really, really costs laboring to go into an art fair because it costs you have to pay for that and you have to pay for logistics. So another way to get to sustainability and profitability is to um like if you're having an exhibition to try and have a target that you're going to sell. So you should budgetize all of your art exhibitions, and then you should try to get have a target or a quarterly target. Then you should think of marketing ways, different ways to get collectors to buy. You can engage collectors by writing about the artworks, making artworks interesting, having good curators notes, having well designed invitations and catalogs. Then another way to get sustainability is you could partner with a PR firm. You could outsource the marketing. So when you have an exhibition, I've worked with galleries where they had different people, like they had a host who was a you can make people come into the exhibition to host, let's say someone from who's got a lot of following, or someone like, for instance, and you can have someone who, for instance, I was working with what do you call it, a gallery, and they had different a guest curator, or you could get someone to come in, so something to make your gallery more fresh, something to make it you can partner with different people to get more following towards your exhibition. So I think different ways to get sustainability, just recap, is to diversify your market, try to get different international markets, to get different hosts for exhibitions, to create and design your branding very well, have a distinct what exactly you're known for. Try to make it so that you always have people coming back to your gallery, rather than, and you don't always go to the same people to invite to your exhibition. So I think that's those are some ways to try to be sustainable and profitable as a gallery.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so you've mentioned things about sustainability and profitability in as a gallery owner and women in art business. Okay, so what about sustainability, like scaling, like you're trying to scale the art business? How do we do that?
Scale it. So for instance, you can look at galleries like Rella. They've opened branches in different countries. They've you can get a bigger space. You have to look for investors in order to get um, a to scale. You have to have the funds. So I would say look at investors, or get grants, or apply for funding to scale. The different ways to get funding as a fundraiser. You can talk to individuals. You can talk to companies. You can talk to companies for CSR, for corporate social responsibility. There are different ways to scale. So first I would say fundraise, and then I would say like try to get different international markets. Then I would say um, try to um, work with different companies, partnerships with different galleries, different um, curators, different. So you get something fresh, but you also have a brand that you're known for. And a lot of galleries are actually having their own roster of artists. So they have exclusivity contracts with artists, so that they um, have their brand, they have their particular people that they work with, so that they have what they're known for, and then they can like work. Well, if you start with the career of an artist and you scale it, you can see you can see the trajectory of that artist, and I think that's the best way to do it, to have a roster of artists rather than just working with random artists.
Okay. Okay. Uh, that's cool. Thank you. Um, for all of us, if we have questions, I know that this has been like a very interesting session so far. If we have questions, we can drop it in the chat box so we can get to the answer question segment. But just drop your questions in the chat box while we move on for now. Aziza, back to you. As an art advisor, okay, Hannah mentioned funding, scaling, and all that. As an art and advisor, what are the opportunities that you know exist to women in the art space, gallery owners, art businesses, artists? Like, what opportunities do you think exist in this year for female in women in the arts sector?
I think that a lot of opportunities. I mean, this year alone, we've seen Lagos Gallery Weekend has started, which is on this weekend. That was founded by a woman. There are many more art conferences. 234 Art Fair just started last year. Again, that was also founded by a woman. There are many, many more galleries coming up there. Museums opening, J.K. Randall, the MOA in Benin, who's headed by a woman. All these places are also hiring. So I'm not saying that women need to start things themselves, but there are many places where you can even like, for instance, plug in and say, okay, this art fair is starting, Artex is coming up. If you have an idea, approach them for a booth or a collaboration. There's a lot to do. I think there's a lot of consulting and strategy work to be done as well. So, for instance, if you have a group of people who you know are interested in something, um, you can approach somebody with that idea and say, okay, I have a group of people. How do we get them into Artex? How do we get even something like the children's art gallery, for instance? He saw a gap where it's like, okay, there are children who want to create art and want to display art. How do I make this happen? So somebody could say, how do I get the children art gallery to the museum? How do I get even local children to start creating art? Or how do I get Nigerian sculptors to start exhibiting their work outside? I mean, I think it's really just about having an idea and going for it right now, because again, like I said earlier, the Nigerian and African art market is really in its infancy. There's so much been done here. So it's really just about having an idea, fine tuning it, getting advice, collaborating with people, and making it happen.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that's very interesting. I would make sure that I'm sure the women on this call will make sure they take actions like that and steps like that to get into everything the industry has to offer. Okay, so back to Sheung. Um, Sheung, your work is at the intersection of law, curation, and cultural strategy. How can African artists leverage culture to increase the global value of their work?
Okay,
Hi, Sheung.
thank you for that. Yes, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Oh,
Yes, we can hear you, Sheung.
can
You
you hear
can go
me?
ahead.
I also wanted to explain something. I mean, I'm a lawyer, right? But I also don't I don't consult my legal capacity within this space.
Okay.
Reason being, my work here is mostly like art consulting and curation. But of course, I am a lawyer, I've always been, but I do want to make clear. So if you had like disputes with your galleries or something, it's when you're going to bring it to, you should take it to someone who is certified or running a law firm, right? And this is my take on many things. You also need to start where you are. I know a lot of artists, a lot of galleries, a lot of people that work within this space. They're very eager to expand their reach, expand their space, expand their work, and collaborate with somebody that's outside of the country. But I always, and I keep saying this, is no matter you go, you could always ask where you're from and what you've done within the environment that you find yourself in. I mean, just like other panelists, I'm sure you travel widely. The minute you even mention you're Nigerian, um, there's a certain respect, to be honest, because other Nigerian professionals have gone out there into the global art market and they have back, back home here. Way and what and I think we all leverage on in our different capacities. Um, what am I trying to say in a nutshell here is you can you can leverage on the good work that some people have done. People like BC Silva, for example, there were exhibitions that I've been to, and the minute I mentioned Nigerians, we said, did you know who BC Silva was? Did just name dropping, and they'll ask me about many artists as well. Like, do you know about this artist? Do you know where, what she's doing now? I think for me, I get so caught up in these things, and I really wish that sometimes we just, and how far we've come within within these climbs, right? But not to take away from people's ambitions, and if you have ideas and dreams and all these things that you want to achieve, I think starting with collaborations, and that's where to really start from. And again, to speak about what is happening in the space now. A lot of women are creating opportunities for other people to thrive. Whatever sort of gender that you identify with. The fact is, they are doing the work, paving the way for other people to be successful whilst being successful themselves. So, starting from very strategic collaborations, the people they're partnering with, the people that they're speaking with, people that they're putting, on their different stages, right? And then, sort of after that, what are you really saying? What sort of stories are you telling? What are you taking away from the culture, and how are you um, amplifying the cultural space that you find yourself in? You don't have to box yourself in a particular space and say, okay, I'm going to. But the fact is, you cannot take yourself away from where you are creating or where you are working from, right? And I think that's where sometimes we find that, me, for example, when people ask me, where are you based? I would most likely tell you that I'm in Lagos and this is where I do a lot of my work, even if it takes me outside of this space. But I think we need to also leverage on expand beyond like the traditional mediums of things. I'm a strong advocate for abstract works. I'm more drawn to those kind of works, and ultimately, I'm pushing those kind of works a little bit more than I would do with maybe a landscape or a figurative work. I am sorry about this. Sorry. What was I saying about abstract pieces? That's what I'm generally drawn to, and of course, that's what I'm putting out there a little bit more. But I would also, it's also things that are beyond what we are maybe being fed. So do a lot more research yourself before you can even know what is happening within the global space, right? More research about what's happening, here within Nigeria, Lagos, wherever you find that you're working from. But I think more importantly as well is not doing this alone. We talk about maybe our government and some private sector spaces that are not as supportive. But the truth is, we are all in this country. And I think collaborations shouldn't just stop within the arts industry. There's so many other sectors that you can partner with and work with, and just sort of advocate for institutional support, corporate support, from government, from private sector, companies, and all these many places that we can leverage from. But I think on the whole, it's just to start from where we are and really build up from there.
Um, okay, Sean. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's been very, very insightful. Thank you to all our speakers so far. That's been really, really insightful. Okay, so we have a question here. Um, this question is to everyone. So I'll just read it out loud. It says, what are the most realistic ways of sourcing for funds? Um, I say this because of a location barrier. I'm based in the southern Nigeria and the art community is emerging, but we have to go to either Lagos or Abuja to break out. For me, sourcing for funds to kick off my art business has been daunting. So, say two in one question. Second would be, what does a proposal for successful funding entail? I'm fascinated by the lineup of presenters. Oh, thank you. I would like to put together a document on your areas of expertise. Will Shewa, Aziza, and Hannah be open to collaborate? Um, Dr. Ashley Stewart. So, would like to take this question. Hi, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you. So which of the questions are we addressing first? Is it I forgot to
The
remember.
funding, yeah, something for funds.
Funding, what I'm starting to realize about funding is you just really have to be clear about what you really want to do. Um, there are many ways to fund your business. I mean, we can't start talking about the endless possibilities, right? I think what I find across board and any kind of source it is, whether it's a donation, whether you are going to go down the commercial route, if you're a not-for-profit space. So what are some of your goals, right? So if you're doing a fundraiser, what what are you fundraising for? What do you plan to do with the money? If you're more on the commercial side, of course, you really have to answer to of how funds will be used. But again, you have to be clear. This is what the price is, or this is what we're looking to. Where it is. I think it's just
Aziza, do you have something to say on this question?
Sure. I think in terms of fundraising, it's I don't know that it's always necessary for every business to fundraise. For instance, if you were a curator and you wanted to do an exhibition, you don't necessarily have to fundraise to do that. You can also work through collaborations, like find a space who doesn't have that many people coming in and say, okay, I want to do an exhibition. People will come into the space, that will bring you awareness. Then you can work with the artist on consignment. So, which means as you sell work, then both of you get paid. So you don't have to take anything upfront. It's also quite easy to learn how to install if the work is not very complex. You just have to find it, get a drill, some nails. I mean, every business is different, but I think that as I've looked around and I've learned more, I found that the less money you actually put into a business, the better. It's better and it's more fulfilling to grow organically instead of, and I think also what I've seen is if you just raise a lot of money and put it into the business, the amount of money you lose over like silly mistakes happens way quicker. So if you don't have, if the less money you have, the more you think about what exactly you're doing and how necessary it is. Is it necessary to spend a lot of money on a location? Is it necessary to get glass frames, even though you know the work, you don't know whether the work is going to sell or not? So I think depending on what business you want to start, you have to think about whether fundraising is even necessary. And then if it is necessary, I think I believe that this government, the arts and culture minister has been trying as much as possible to work with new businesses. So I think create a proposal. There's ChatGPT and so many AI technology these days that can help you look over them and amend them. And I think another thing is also know your business through and through. I don't think this is the time to just start a business because you think, oh, that's a great idea, even though you know nothing about it. So yeah, that's why.
Thank you, Aziza. Hannah, I don't know if you would want to say something on this.
Yeah, I would say there are two different types of fundraising. There's not for profit fundraising. Let's say you're a foundation and you need to fundraise. You apply for grants. You can write proposals to companies for CSR. But if you're an individual and you want to start a business, I would say you have to have a thick skin because you could fundraise from individuals or people. You're going to fundraise from so it depends what kind of business you are, but when you're thinking about fundraising. And then in terms of writing a proposal, I would say you need to be very clear on the mission and the vision, and you need to think about what exactly you are trying to do, and then you need to sell it. So think about doing an elevator pitch. You need to think of what's going to catch someone to want to put their money into this. So you need to make your writing very um, in, compelling. You need to be able to write compellingly. And I wouldn't say there's a formula to it. You can use like templates to help you write a proposal, but then I would make sure you always write when you write you can use template, you always re jig it a bit. You make sure you write your own, put your own spirit into it. Then I think so in terms of to conclude, I think there's two different ways to deal with fundraising. It depends on where you are. If you're a not-for-profit, I would say grant writing is very important. You would have to write you would have to write about your programming that is relevant with the grant and what they're asking for. It's like writing an essay, it's like writing a dissertation. You have to answer the question of what the grant is asking for. Then you come up with something. But in terms of if you're just an individual and you want to start up, I would say, and you're not for profit or you're a commercial business, I would say you could fundraise from high net worth individuals. You could try to reach out to people who have a lot of disposable income and try to, like, you have to have a cause. You have to say what the cause is and say why someone should give their money towards that cause. So that would be my advice about fundraising.
Okay. Thank you, Hannah. Um, this has been such a powerful discussion. Um, Apologies, I don't know what happened. My video just went off, so that's why you can't see my face anymore. Um, Before we wrap up, I would love to hear one final thoughts from each of you. If you could give just one piece of advice to women in the art industry looking to march forward in their careers and the art industry as gallery owners, what would it be? I don't know who would like to take that first.
I can take it.
Okay, Aziza.
Um, I think my one piece of advice as a woman in the art industry would be to support your fellow women. I know that I always try to buy from female gallerists or work with female art advisors. Seun and I have worked together many times. I go to her for advice sometimes. I try my best to go to other female in the art industry for advice as well and collaborate with them, because I feel like if we are not collaborating and working together, then why would the men collaborate with us? I also try my best to work with female artists just because the men are doing the same thing. So at the end of the day, we have to build up and lift ourselves up. So I think don't be afraid to reach out to other women in the art industry for collaboration, for advice. And yeah.
Thank you, Aziza. Hannah.
A piece of advice I would say is don't um don't shrink yourself. Always make yourself, like, there was this documentary of this wasn't a documentary, it was like a skit, and then these all the women were apologizing, overly apologizing for what they were doing. They'd be like, oh sorry, and then they would sit down and they'd be like, oh sorry. Like, but don't shrink yourself in the presence of men or in the presence of other women. Just step up to the plate, speak with your chest high. Don't feel you have to shrink yourself as a woman. Don't feel sorry. Don't always make sure that you have a thick skin. I don't say put yourself on other people, especially when you're fundraising or if you're do business with other people. Don't put yourself don't put yourself don't make yourself a nuisance. But I'm just saying, like, don't be afraid to talk to people. Don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to network. Go to exhibitions, network, and then also social media can help. Like, if you have a good social media profile, I've gotten like so many countless jobs from social media. I think you can self promote yourself. Definitely don't be afraid to self promote. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and that would be my advice.
Thank you, Hannah. Sheol.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was cut off earlier. I think it's more along the lines of what Azzy has said. If you're supporting, like, just show genuine support and collaborate, with your colleagues and speak with other people as well. And then I think it's in the speaking that you find that, okay, this problem is something that you can tackle. This issue is something that you can actually solve, as opposed to trying to do it all yourself. Yeah, just join a community. It doesn't have to be labor per se, but just have people that you have good relationships with, especially women, right? Because we see across boards men doing exhibitions that are only men, right? And it really bothers me when I see things like that. So, if you have women doing fantastic work, I think emulate, support, and collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheol. Thank you so much for those inspiring words to our lineup of guests. To everyone who joined us today, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. If you found today's session valuable, let's keep the momentum going. follow our speakers, stay engaged in the community, and most importantly, keep pushing your art business forward. And of course, if managing your art business feels overwhelming, we at Vascan, we are here to help you. I remember Shimu mentioned we could give our work out. We don't have to do everything ourselves, so we can handle payments, connection with collectors. We would help take the stress off you of your business while you focus on your art and your craft. Um, so let's keep moving the art business forward together. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much, and see you in our next one. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.